slightly over the visa.
Great, okay, so part 2, well done for everybody surviving part 1. And part 2, so we're going to look at how accurate the Bible is. Is there any evidence for the Bible? How true is it? And we're going to look at some archaeology in the Bible as well. It's all about the evidence of the Bible and answering some questions on that. And I'm going to answer sort of Jojo's question before. So I'm going to make this statement, a slightly bold, polemic statement, that the existence of the Christian God can be demonstrated beyond reasonable doubt to those who are willing to genuinely look. So beyond reasonable doubt, so that's like in a law case, that if you look at the evidence, at the end of the day, that evidence is overwhelmingly for the existence of a God, for those who are willing to look. But, and this is sort of an anti-answer to that, but I think this is a good response. Blaise Pascal made this answer. God provides some signs of himself visible to those who seek him, and not to those who seek him not. And it's a bit like that, ask and you'll receive, seek and you'll find. But if you don't seek, it's not there. And I think there's a logic in that as well, which is quite a deep logic, and I think it's a true logic as well. And some people will say in an argument, what, you got no proof. Where is the proof? Where's the? I can't see God. Like, what was the question about Yuri Gagarin? The great, amazing, brave cosmonaut. But it's, I can't see God, and he was looking for proof. But another answer is, prove to me justice. Show me it. Prove to me love. I want to see it. I want empirical evidence of love. What about maths? Prove to me there's a mathematical, what a number is. There isn't a tangible thing to those things. Beauty, tangible evidence of beauty. Now, we all know beauty exists, but how do you measure beauty? How do you provide an empirical things? So, in all of those things, you can show beyond reasonable doubt that those things exist, but without an empirical nature. Okay, so biblical accuracy. There are a number of different ways the accuracy of the Bible comes under attack. One of which is the Bible's been rewritten. One is there's missing books. What about the inconsistencies in it? And we're going to focus mostly on the first claim, that the Bible has been rewritten. And there's a great... one thing is just like, it's so well attested. There are 17,000 ancient documents of the Old Testament. There's 25,000 ancient documents of the New Testament in different languages, or mostly in Greek, mostly in Hebrew, comparatively. But that is so well attested. Compared to any other ancient document, it is by far the best attested. And but let's look at one particular one. Let's look at Isaiah. For various books, it says that it was written, the book itself says it was written by Isaiah and his scribe Baruch about 700 BC. And there's a trouble with Isaiah. As you know, Isaiah contains many things, including prophecies of Jesus Christ. But until 1946, the oldest complete copy of the book of Isaiah was this one, the Codex Leningradensis, which is in St. Petersburg. And that is written in 1008 AD. So 1700 years after Isaiah wrote it. That's a big time frame. So all those prophecies about Jesus from Isaiah 53 and such, what do people say? Well, the higher critics and many other people following them would say, well, those were just written into it by the Christians after, the prophecies aren't prophecies at all, they're written afterwards. And there are older versions. This is 350 AD, is a Greek version, but not in Hebrew. It's a Septuagint, and that's in the British Museum. You can go there for free. It's my favourite place in London, just close to Euston Station. Walk in there, it's just on the left. That's the oldest Bible in the world, from about 300 AD. That's the third oldest Bible in the world, next to it in the case. There's usually nobody standing there. It's amazing. That's a page from it. Okay, but was the Old Testament, particularly the Messianic prophecies, rewritten by Christians? That's the big question. Is it all a lie? That's what some people will have a go at you. And 1008 AD, well after Jesus Christ. And then, this photo again, I like this photo. A shepherd boy in 1946 was walking past looking for a lost sheep. Muhammad did 1946, November 1946, and he with two friends, and he saw this cave and he threw a stone into it and he heard a kind of crunch sound, broken pottery. And so he went into it, and inside it found these jars, and inside them were the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Dead Sea Scrolls contain, when they translated them, when they found them, so the Dead Sea Scrolls date from about 200 BC to about 150 BC, but all before Christ. And they contain, we were looking at it this morning, so this is the Dead Sea Scrolls Bible, so this is only stuff from the Dead Sea Scrolls. And if you look at this, all translated English, and there's some gaps there, you don't have every manuscript. It also doesn't have Esther, and it doesn't have Nehemiah, but it has every other book of the Old Testament. And it has 2 copies, very full, of the book of Isaiah, dating from 100 to 150 BC. So this is one of those, the B version. It's got 46 of the 66 chapters. The other one's got slightly more, but this one's got 46. So, what does this one say? How does this compare to the Codex Leningradensis from, this is 100 BC, that's from 1008 AD, 1100 years of change. How much difference are they? How accurate is our Bible? 1100 years. So, quote, top professor, the high degree of accuracy in the Masoretic copying of the manuscripts, although it is separated from the Codex Leningradensis by more than 1,000 years, only 5 complete words are added and 6 words are missing in a text that contains parts or all of 46. There are 11 words difference in the book of Isaiah. So what is that? Well, that is 99.85%, accuracy.
Wow.
So if somebody asks you, the Bible's changed, you can say yes, you're right. 0.15% difference, 11 words difference in Isaiah. That's true. 11 words. And what are those 11 changes? I was asked this. I have done this class before. So I was asked, what are the changes? Because if it was changed Jesus to Satan, for example, that would be quite a major difference. So I did a little bit of digging on that, which was fun. So this is one of the changes from Isaiah 53. The prophecy about Jesus. So in the Codex Leningradensis, it says, after he has suffered, he will, and everyone believes this is a prophecy about Jesus. He will see the fruits of his suffering and will be satisfied. By his knowledge, my righteous servant, who we understand to be Jesus, will justify many and he will bear their iniquities. Okay. This is one of the 11 changes. After he has suffered, he will see the light of life. So there is a change there. He will see the light of life. That's interesting.
That's the fruit of the suffering.
So that makes more sense. So this is an error, but this actually makes it more of a prophecy about Jesus, to my way I read it, than it was before. And this is actually exactly the same as the Codex Vaticanus, the Septuagint, which is the Greek copy. So the Greek and this are exactly the same. By his knowledge, and then we go on, okay? This is 100 BC, okay? So before Jesus existed. By his knowledge, my righteous servant will justify many, and he will bear their iniquities. All the rest of Isaiah 53, no changes whatsoever. And that's the one change in Isaiah 53. So, we can have some confidence about that. Some other things. This is sort of the Cirrus cylinder, discovered in Babylon, 1879. It's in the British Museum. a lot of other stuff in the British Museum. And when they translated the cylinder, they got this. From Merturno as far as the region of Gutium, the sacred centers on the other side of the Tigris, I returned the images of the gods who had resided there to their places. I gathered all their inhabitants, returned them their dwellings. So what is this? This is Cyrus, who is king at that point, in about 539 BC. So the Jews were, the Bible says, were in exile in Babylon. And this new, they've taken there by Nebuchadnezzar, a new king appears, Cyrus. And we see in this him saying all the people can go back to their homeland, and they can also, talks about their gods, the images of their gods. They can go back and work. And there was that part of it. So what does the Bible say? The Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, so that he made a proclamation, also put it in writing, and he's charged me to build him a house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Whoever is among you, all his people, may his God be with him, may go back to Jerusalem. So you get perfect, or very, very close archaeological evidence that Cyrus allowed his people to go back to the town, just as the Bible says in Ezra. It's just, and we talked about proof. Can you prove it? No, you can build up a body of evidence which shows beyond reasonable doubt. Okay, Dead Sea Scrolls are old. This is the oldest Bible text. It's my photo of it. It's in the museum in Jerusalem. I wanted to bring out. When I went to Jerusalem, I bought you can buy a facsimile copy, a copy of it in silver, a little necklace. It was probably a piece of jewellery for a woman, and it was buried with her. And they found it, but it dates. The woman was buried. It's 600 BC, so it's before the exile. And that's a zoom in of it. And it's early Hebrew. It's before. One of the proofs of it is it's before. And when that's translated, this is the words from Numbers. Yahweh bless you and keep you. Yahweh make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. And give you peace. So it's just a few little bits as a preamble as well. And but this is what we have in Numbers. The Lord, which we in our Bibles translate Yahweh as the Lord. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance to you and give you peace. So when they found this 600-year-old amulet, this was only about 30 years ago that someone found it. It was actually a teenager who found it. She was helping out with on a archaeological site just on the edge of Jerusalem. And when they found it, they found this piece from Numbers. It's extraordinary, the priestly blessing from Numbers. And they found that the word for word, the few words that remain are 100% exactly the same as the Bibles we have today from that. There's no change at all. What about the New Testament? Well, there's a lot more of New Testament, and it's a lot newer, and it was written much closer to the times. Galatians, for example, is written probably 55 AD, only just over 20 years after Jesus was gone. But what about the oldest manuscripts? How are they? Well, who came from Manchester? Did someone come from? You were in Manchester, weren't you? Yeah. You go to Manchester, you can see this. The oldest New Testament text in the world is in Manchester. And it's this, just a tiny little bit from John 18. But it's dated from 125 AD. Now, John was the last gospel written, about 90 AD. So this fragment, which looks from the handwriting analysts say it was probably written by just somebody, not a professional scribe. It's a well written, but it's probably not a professional scribe, a professional copy. It's just someone making their own copy of like we might do in a quiet time. You might write out a little passage from the Bible, and from John 18, but it's 35 years after the Gospel of John was first written. And you can see this. It's actually opens in sometimes they take it away because they don't want it to deteriorate. But in the spring of next year, it'll be back on public display in Manchester, and you can see it. 35 years, a copy made 35 years after the original was made. And this is just 125 years. We are blessed to have this thing.
Yeah.
And what about the accuracy of it? Well, this is the Greek. And there's two sides of it. It's written on both sides. So this is the back side. This is Jesus in John 18 when he's speaking to Pontius Pilate, the same passage we were talking about earlier. You know, and it says a king, and the yellow is what is there, the grey is what's, is missing, yeah. A king I am. For this I have been born, and for this I've come into the world, so that I would test it to find to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth hears my voice, said to him, Pilate, what is truth? And this having said, again he went out unto the Jews and said to them, I find not one fault in him. And the words that are remain are exactly the same as we have today. This is a modern. This is the seminal, the defined New Testament from which people translate the Bible. This is the amalgamation, the agreed amalgamation of the New Testament that we would have of the PEF. And those words are exactly the same as that. There's no difference. So in terms of accuracy, it's insane. 100% accurate, written just 35 years after John wrote the Gospel of John. Okay, let's move on. What about the missing books? We'll go quickly on this one. What about the missing books? The books in the Christian Old Testament are exactly the same as in a Jewish Old Testament. There just is no difference whatsoever. They've got slightly different names, and the way they're ordered is slightly different. But the words in a Jewish Bible, which is what they describe it, the same as in a Christian New Testament, Christian Old Testament. And what about the other books, the Apocrypha, the Pseudepigrapha, other missing books? This could be a long topic, but the way I like this, and someone explained to me, it's a bit like going into a Christian bookshop. You ever been into a Christian bookshop?
Yeah.
So, in a Christian bookshop, are all the books the Bible? No. You got lots of Bibles, but you got a bunch of other books, like on this table. None of that's sort of the Bible, and that's sort of the Bible, but everything else is not the Bible. So is this heretical? Are these missing books from the Bible that haven't been done there? No. There are other books. They have some value. A lot of them are worthwhile reading. Some of them are, but have a read of them. And they can add your knowledge, particularly the ancient books, the Apocrypha, can add your knowledge of things that happened around that time. But they're not the Bible. They're not the Word of God. They're just kind of useful historical stuff around that time. So I don't understand why people really get so confused about the missing books. Yeah. Okay, and archaeology, I love archaeological evidence. Just to back up, we talked a little bit before, so I'm just going to go 5 archaeological evidence kind of running through biblical times. So one of those, the earliest reference to Israel is 1208 BC. So 1208 BC is a very, very early, because when did the Jews, they weren't even called the Jews at that time, when did the Hebrews or the Israelites, you could call them, come across the Jordan? Well, probably about 1250 BC. Okay? It's a bit, dating around this time is a bit, anything before 966 and the founding of the Solomon Temple is a bit vague. But, but here, just 40 odd years later, you've got the Egyptians going on a military campaign all the way through, and they have written this: the princes are prostrate, saying peace, not one is raising his head. Among the 9 bows, now that 10 of Libya has come to ruin, Hattie is specified that Canaan has been plundered. So these are all the places that the Egyptian army destroyed on the route. Ashkelon has been overcome, Gezer has been captured, Yanam is made on Israel is laid waste, and his seed is not Huru has become widow. So this symbol here is the symbol for Israel. So Israel existed as a nation, a very young nation, just 40 years or so after they came out of the wilderness. All the way down to 840 BC, the next one, the Moabite stone, a stele. So this is a kind of, people gave records, of kings did afterwards. And this is interesting because this is the enemy of the Israelites. the Moabites, and they record this. And they say this: I am Mesha, son of Chemosh, king of Moab. Omri was king of Israel and oppressed Moab during many days. His son Sibzib, Chemosh said to me, go take Nebo against Israel. And I went into the night and I fought against it, and I killed in all 7,000 men, women and maidens, and I took from it the vessels of Jehovah. It's the first time that we see recording of Jehovah, Yahweh, the God, and off them before Chemosh. And here we see from 2 Kings. So this is the other side. And you do get two sides in a war. So this is the other bit. Now Mesha, king of Moab, was a sheep breeder, and he had to deliver to the king of Israel 100,000 lambs and the wool of 100,000. But when Ahab died, the king of Moab rebelled, which is what we see there, against the king of Israel. So King Jehoram marched out of Samaria at the time and mustered all of Israel. Same thing, same war recorded, in the Bible and by Esther, which dates back to 840 BC. Next one to go against, Sennacherib, king of the universe, king of Assyria, sits on a throne. The spoils of Lachish are paraded behind it. And this is again in the British Museum. Yes. And Sennacherib, king of Assyria, was besieging Lachish with all his forces, send his servants to Jerusalem to Hezekiah, king of Judah. So we see the same story recorded in this extraordinary and beautiful carving, which dates back to 701 BC. But he didn't get into Jerusalem. And it doesn't, of course, this doesn't record him being defeated. Same battle, same time to Hezekiah. And what did Hezekiah do? Because he was being besieged in Jerusalem, he built a tunnel. Have you been through this tunnel?
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
I haven't either. Who has?
Chris has.
Chris, I'm so annoyed. I went to Jerusalem a year and a half ago and it was there. And this is my photo, but it was in flood. Yeah. And they said, you can't go through it. And I was in a group of about 30 people. You can't go through it because it'll be up to your chest.
Right, it was mid-size him, so he could walk through it. It was mid-size.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And I went back kind of sad, and we went and seen it at least. And then I got back to the hotel, and one of my friends had followed at the back, and he'd gone through it on his own. And I was like, why am I such a wimp? Why am I not so? So now I'm going to go back to Jerusalem. But this was built, and it's recorded in 2 Kings 20, the deeds of Hezekiah in all his mind, how he made the pool and the conduit, which is the tunnel, and brought wit into this. So this was so that water would be inside Jerusalem. It follows this line at the same Sennacherib invasion. And it's unbelievable. It's 530 meters long. Wow. There's even an inscription in the middle of it they found where the two sides met. From 700 BC, they tunneled, 2,700 years, they tunneled that way through the solid rock, and they met in the middle. Amazing. And still works to this day. Nineveh, a little bit, Nineveh's interesting. You always think of Nineveh and you think about Jonah. But the Ninevites didn't listen to God. So they listened when Jonah went there, but 150 years later, they hadn't listened and they'd become very sinful again. And so God sent, merciful God, he sent Nahum. And, Jonah says about Nineveh was a great city, and that's recorded, probably believed to be the biggest city in the world in about this time. And this is some photos of the war. This is Jonah's crazy journey, going away and then coming back to Nineveh. And there's the ruins of it today. I haven't been. It's in modern day Iraq. But it says in Nahum, this is the prophecy of what's going to happen. He remembers his officers. They stumble as they go. They hasten to the wall. The siege tower is set up. The river gates are opened. The palace melts away. And we know that Nineveh fell. And there's a Greek historian who records this. The river both inundated a portion of the city and broke down the walls for a distance of 20 states. Diodorus. So, and what we think happened is that the attackers deliberately dammed the river to flood the city and destroy its gates. And now it's 30 kilometers from modern day Mosul in Iraq, and it says that the dam protecting the river is the most dangerous dam in the world, and it's quite likely that and if so, it falls, it'll be underwater again for 14 metres. Again, archaeological evidence which just talks about prophecy and evidence is there, and it's just one of many. And this one, which we'll come back to, a lot of people said that Pontius Pilate never existed. He was a bit of a failure, Pontius Pilate. He wasn't the most successful politician. He said he didn't follow much, but they said because he wasn't a great name, that he never existed. And then they found this. In 1961 in Caesarea Maritima, it was actually been taken, this stone, and put into a different wall, but they translated it to the divine Augustus Tiberius, who was the Caesar at that time, who was the Roman emperor at the time, Pontius Pilate. You can see it, Pontius Pilate, by Latin, has dedicated, prefect of Judea, it says where he was, has dedicated this. And it's a temple, written in AD 26. So we know where it was, who it was. It defines everything that's in the Bible is true. There's another way we can look at it, which is messianic prophecies, which we can provide evidence of our Bible being true. And I'm just going to look at a few of those. There's 300 messianic prophecies. You could spend all day on them, but I'll just look at three which are fun. From Micah 5:2, and Micah, Dead Sea Scrolls, written beforehand. Oh, Bethlehem. Have you anyone been to Bethlehem? Yeah? It's a little town.
Yeah.
To this day, it's a little town. It's only 10 kilometres from Jerusalem, but it's a very small, it's never been very big. It's a ridiculous place to say that you're going to have God or the Messiah coming from. But you, Bethlehem Ephrathah, who are too little to be among the clans of Judah, from you shall come forth one for me who is to be ruler in Israel, who's come forth with silver and gold. And the prophecy is realised that Joseph also went up to Galilee from the town of Nazareth to Judea to the city of David, which is called Bethlehem. Prophecy 1. An impossibility, therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son and shall call his name Emmanuel. Isaiah 7:14. And Emmanuel means God with us, or Jesus is God. In the 6th month, the angel Gabriel was sent from God to the city of Galilee named Nazareth to a virgin betrothed to a man whose name is Joseph. So the prophecy, messianic prophecy, is fulfilled. And thirdly, rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion, shout aloud, O daughter of Jerusalem. Behold, your king is coming to you, righteous and having salvation. Is he humble and mounted on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey. Zechariah 9. And what did Jesus do? The disciples went out and did as Jesus had directed them. They brought the donkey and the colt and put them on him, and he sat on them, and he rode into Jerusalem. So prophecies are met. And this is a different kind of prophecy. This is a prophecy from Jesus Christ. So some of his disciples, it says in Luke, were remarking about how the temple was adorned with beautiful stones and with gifts dedicated to God. And Jesus said, as for what you see here, the time will come when not one stone will be left on another. Every one of them will be thrown down. And so what happened in 67 AD, the Jews rebelled against Rome and formed and pushed them out. Bold move. And they formed an independent state. Now, what do we know about the Jews? At that time, Jesus talks about it. He talks about how all the coinage had the head of Caesar on it. And so they created their own coins for 3 years. From 67 to 70 AD, they created their own coinage, 1, 2, 3. And this coin is from 68 to 69 AD. It has the number 2 on it. And so this is one of the coins that they created. And then the prophecy was, I passed them out, so there you go. And if you want to look at it, it's a coin from Jerusalem, Israel, 68 to 69 AD. And the prophecy came true, that they created an independent Jewish state. And then in 70 AD, the Romans came. They besieged for a long time the walls of Jerusalem. They brought them down, and the temple was destroyed. The gold rolled down, melted down inside the rocks, Roman soldiers pulled all the stones apart so they could get every last bit of gold that was in it, and nothing was left apart from the foundational wall, which is the Western Wall or the Weeping Wall, which you can get down to, which is the only thing left. That's it. Q&A on biblical accuracy. So prompts if you want them. A little